Exclusive contract novel from Feilu Novel Network. Siheyuan. Silly Pillar's cousin, being a cow and horse requires grass. He Xiangyang woke up and traveled to the world of poultry filled Siheyuan. He also became He Yuzhu's cousin, a first-class fitter at the steel rolling mill. The original salary is paid, and the foolish pillar manages food and drink, which is called taking care of the younger brother. Pour tea for Yi Zhonghai in the unit, and work hard for the He and Jia families after work. After receiving his salary, He Xiangyang wanted to buy a braised soup for a tooth-beating ceremony, but was punched and kicked by He Yuzhu. Amidst grief and anger, I suddenly belched my butt. He Xiangyang said that being a bull and a horse is not a bad thing, at least give it to Star. Not giving anything, just babbling and not taking care of me. Separate from Silly Zhu and stay where it's cool. Yi Zhonghai wants to morally kidnap me. Alright, let's replace the old man with someone else and take care of your old fitter work. Let's go check the warehouse. Haizhong is setting up an official profile in front of me, and there is still a shortage of people to clean the toilet. Second uncle, come on. Fugui wants to calculate my grain. Sisterly wiped her gun with agility, and we opened one eye and closed another, and quickly passed by with a hiss. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001, I have traveled, cousin He Yuzhu. You are listening at novel full.audio. It's been over a day now, and the child hasn't gone out yet. There hasn't been any fire inside, so there shouldn't be anything wrong, right? This child is honest, and even a cousin like Silly Pillar is facing a difficult fate. TSK. Why don't you go in and take a look? Don't let anything really happen and make the courtyard unclean. A few old ladies gathered in front of a bungalow, chattering incessantly. This is the family business of my He family. Don't interfere. He Xiangyang is my cousin. What happened when I beat him up? He eats and drinks from my house, can't I take care of him? Don't be fooled, I want to see how long this kid can hold his grudge against me. A rough voice sounded, and the words were filled with a sense of arrogance. He Xiangyang vaguely heard the voices of discussion outside the door and opened his eyes. I saw the wooden beams above my head, the 8 immortals table with distinctive features of the times, the red painted stool, and the wooden wash basin. Where is this? Didn't I press my feet in the clubhouse? Someone stepped on a horse and threw me a house. He Xiangyang felt anxious and quickly got up. Hiss. Lying down fine, He Xiangyang felt pain all over his body as he moved, pinching his teeth and flowers. A memory flooded into He Xiangyang's mind, as if someone was drilling into the back of his head with a flashlight. Quickly, the complex memories merged. I am He Xiangyang, the cousin of Silly Zhu, a first-class fitter at the Red Star Rolling Mill. It's early winter of 1965 now, and this is a world full of courtyards. He Xiangyang sat on the bed, his face twitching uncontrollably. Let's just travel through time. Surprisingly, we arrived at this courtyard full of beasts and became the cousin of the big-licking dog He Yuzhu. He Xiangyang has watched the drama, Emotional Courtyard, and even made up a rhyme at the time. Autonomous deaf-mute dragon old lady. The moral heaven is like the sea. The official aura is majestic in the bangs. Being able to calculate yen Fugui. Double flower red stick, He Yuzhu. Su Damao has 2 sides and 3 knives. Lotus Saint Mother Qinhuai Ru. Flying eaves and walking walls, Jia Bang stems. The necromancer Jia Zhang. When He Xiangyang watched the drama, he was amazed by the scriptwriter's ability to shape characters. In a small courtyard, there are so many crouching dragon and phoenix chicks gathered. I never expected that I would fall into this big pit. In my memory, my original mother passed away early and was pulled and raised by my father He Xiaotai. Without the care of his mother since childhood, He Xiangyang has a timid and honest personality, and belongs to the role of an 8-pole person who cannot hit a fart. Father He Xiaotai participated in the war to establish the country and entrusted He Xiangyang to the care of his cousin He Yuzhu. I left over 100 yuan and a large house with a wing and an ear room. In the name of taking care of He Xiangyang, He Yuzhu confiscated the money in He Xiangyang's hand. He Xiangyang dared not resist this sturdy and capable cousin. I lowered my head and became a child in the He family, serving the siblings He Yuzhu and He Rainwater, hoping that my father would return soon. Unexpectedly, He Xiaotai sacrificed himself on the battlefield. He Xiangyang became a martyr's relative, and the street arranged for him to work in a steel rolling mill. At the age of 18, He Xiangyang officially started working as an apprentice fitter at the Red Star steel rolling plant. The immortal fell into the hands of Yi Zhonghai. Under the guise of taking care of He Xiangyang, Yi Zhonghai entrusted all the hard work and tiredness to He Xiangyang. From now on, He Xiangyang worked part-time to serve Yi Zhonghai and also had to work for Qinhuairu. After work, I serve the He family siblings. I have to pay my monthly salary and can only eat coarse grain rice with corn paste. That's okay. He Yuzhu licked Qinhuairu wildly, and the Jia family instructed He Xiangyang to do any hard work. Yi Zhonghai presides over the courtyard, and all losses are deducted from He Xiangyang's head. 2 large beasts simultaneously take care of He Xiangyang alone, who can bear this blessing. After working for 2 years, He Xiangyang finally became a full-time employee and his salary increased to 32.5. As a result, not a single penny of this money could fall into my own hands. A few days ago, the steel rolling mill was paying wages, and on his way back, He Xiangyang saw a small shop selling braised pork. I was really greedy, so I spent 1 yuan to buy braised pork and tasted it fresh. When he returned home, Silly Zhu found that his salary was 1 yuan less. He Xiangyang was afraid and told the truth, but was beaten severely by Silly Zhu. Yi Zhonghai also ran over and said that it was He Xiangyang's fault, asking He Xiangyang to apologize to Silly Zhu. He ran back to the room with a yang aura, holding the blanket and crying loudly. Sheng cried himself out. After absorbing his original memories, He Xiangyang clenched his fist. It's better to die than to live. You can go with peace of mind. Those who trouble you, I will make them pay a price 10 times or 100 times. Feeling the residual resentment in his body, He Xiangyang spoke coldly. After speaking, He Xiangyang felt much lighter in his body. Although the area where Silly Zhu was beaten still hurts, there is no feeling of stiffness anymore. Everyone has come, this day must go on. The first step is to get your salary in your hands. If you have money, you can speak and act with determination. It's early winter of 1965 now, and after the new year, a strong wind is coming. Workers' status is very important and cannot be lost. To live well in this era, you need to improve your skills, there is no way to take shortcuts. He Xiangyang pondered in his heart about his next path. He is already 20 years old, and at this age, he can still get married, so there is no need to continue living with Silly Zhu. I am too afraid of silly pillars and dare not mention the matter of family separation. He Xiangyang is different. Let Silly Zhu take away the money he earned and work hard for the He and Jia families, without even taking a bite of grass. Let Silly Zhu roll aside. However, if you want to split up, Silly Zhu will definitely not agree. Who can give up the money sent to their doorstep every month? Silly Zhu started hitting someone when he was unhappy, and He Xiangyang looked at his figure. It is specified that it cannot be defeated. If I really take action, I can only fight with a knife to intimidate the foolish pillar. But Silly Zhu has a dark heart. I need to find a way. If it doesn't work, I'll have to go to the street to handle it. If I were to find a street, Yi Zhonghai, this old pussy, would use morality to oppress me. Damn it, I really want to give Lao by a few punches. He Xiangyang murmured in his heart. Finding the street as a martyr's family, the street will definitely have to deal with it. But after the separation, He Xiangyang still had to live in the courtyard. No one can be left in the courtyard on the street, watch He Xiangyang 24 hours a day. At that time, Silly Zhu will have to start hitting people. Gollum. Just thinking about it, He Xiangyang's stomach rang. People are like iron, rice is like steel, and a meal without hunger is a panic. Not to mention He Xiangyang has been hungry all day inside the house. Dry rice, dry rice. He Xiangyang searched the whole house for food. I found a bag of coarse grain rice, which was very rough. Eating this thing, no wonder those who are thin and not pulling much can be too foolish at any time. He Xiangyang looked at the brown rice in his hand and felt a headache. His injuries are not yet healed. Once he proposes to split the family, with the strength of a foolish pillar, he will need to add new injuries to his body. Ding! The check.In system has been activated. Please collect the beginner's gift package from the host. A mechanical sound suddenly appeared in He Xiangyang's mind. System. I have a system now. Claim the beginner's gift pack. He Xiangyang was stunned for a moment, then became ecstatic and ordered directly. The benefits for travelers may be late, but they will never be absent. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 002, System activation, receive beginner gift package. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding! The beginner's gift pack is open. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 dragon and tiger pill, 1 piece of personal storage space, and 1 Xingyi Fist Master Skill card. The system awesome. After listening to the system broadcast, He Xiangyang couldn't help but whisper. If he wants to split up, he will definitely clash head-on with Silly Zhu. I am worried that I am not a match for Silly Pillar. Even if he tries hard and uses a desperate method to intimidate Silly Pillar once, he cannot prevent Silly Pillar from making a black hand and hitting the stick. Now that there is a beginner gift package reward, it directly solves this problem. He Xiangyang checked the introduction of the beginner gift pack. After taking the dragon and tiger pill, it can improve the body's physical fitness, cleanse essence and marrow, and improve the body's lifespan, with countless benefits. Simply put, it can transform a weak chicken into a strong physique comparable to a muscular gentleman. Although Silly Pillar has some brute force, he is definitely not a match for He Xiangyang after taking the dragon and tiger pill. Dealing with a foolish pillar is like using a cannon to shoot mosquitoes, stabilizing a group. Not to mention the system is also very considerate, giving away a Xingyi Fist Master Skill card. 10 silly pillars went up together, facing He Xiangyang, who had a strong physical ability and added Xingyi Fist. It was also pointless. He Xiangyang took out the dragon and tiger pill and swallowed it directly in his stomach. Quickly, he felt a burst of flames spewing out of his body, flowing along the bloodstream. My whole body seems to be burning. He Xiangyang gritted his teeth tightly, closed his eyes, and endured the pain of washing essence and cutting marrow. A few minutes later, he let out a long breath of turbid air and opened his eyes. Feeling the strong strength possessed by his body, a sharp glint flashed in He Xiangyang's eyes. If Silly Zhu dares to fight him again now, he will definitely greet him with a big mouth. He Xiangyang went to the edge of the towel rack and wiped the sweat off his face with a towel. Oh, it seems like I've grown a little taller. Compared to the towel rack, He Xiangyang found that his height had increased slightly. Undoubtedly, it is the dragon and tiger pill, with endless wonderful uses. Perhaps there are also benefits that I have not discovered. He Xiangyang excitedly thought and took out the skill card of the Xingyi Fist Master. Direct use. The memory of 20 years of practicing boxing was directly infused into He Xiangyang's mind. Xingyi Quan, also known as Sanilioha Quan, combines heart and intention and qi and strength, shoulders and hips, elbows and knees, and hands and feet. Guided by the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and soil, it is divided into split fist, diamond fist, collapse fist, cannon fist, and horizontal fist. He Xiangyang absorbed the skill cards of the Gestalt Fist Master, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Previously, due to his weak strength, he just wanted to split up with Silly Zhu. Now that you have a strong physique and the strength of a master of Xingyi Quan, it's not enough to just divide the family. He Xiangyang wants to retrieve the salary paid to Silly Zhu over the years. Although having a system, this amount of money is not important to He Xiangyang. I can earn it back sooner or later. But one size fits all. If Silly Zhu treats him well, He Xiangyang naturally doesn't care about this amount of money. 'Cause Sha Zhu, this big-licking dog, usually commands its original body like a slave. Of course, He Xiangyang won't give a penny to Silly Zhu. He Xiangyang looked towards the last novice reward, his personal space. A space roughly the size of a football field, rectangular. He Xiangyang held the towel rack in his hand and thought for a moment. The towel rack in hand disappeared and appeared in the personal space. System cowhide, with this portable space, everything is convenient. He Xiangyang took out the towel rack and a bright smile appeared on his face. With the golden finger, as long as there is no major death in the next 10 years, one can safely weather the strong winds. When the sky is high, birds can fly, and the sea is wide, fish can leap. Ding! Does the host choose to sign in? Sign in. He Xiangyang immediately said. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in and receiving 20 pounds of pork belly, 1 bag of white noodles, and 1 bag of polished rice. He Xiangyang's eyes lit up. Pork belly is the best thing at this time. Money doesn't necessarily mean you can buy it, you have to have meat tickets. The market price of 1 pound of 5 meat flours is 80 cents, which ordinary families cannot bear to eat. The system weighs 20 pounds at once, which can only be said to be straightforward and crooked. White flour and polished rice are both fine grains. I followed Silly Zhu to eat, eating brown rice and corn paste. I can only eat a few bites of fine grains during the Chinese New Year and holidays, and I can't even get pure fine grains. He Xiangyang was growling with hunger, and when he received the supplies, he didn't grind for a second. I took 2 gin of streaky meat to make braised pork belly. Boil rice in a pot with polished rice. Soon, there was a smell of coal smoke coming out of He Xiangyang's room. Hey, fire! This child is fine. Just open fire and keep it indoors for a day. I'm probably starving. Scattered, wait for this child to figure it out. A group of elderly sister-in-law gathered outside He Xiangyang's house and said a few words, each returning to their respective homes. They were all worried that He Xiangyang would be too restrained in seeking short-sighted, which would damage the cleanliness of the courtyard. Seeing He Xiangyang's family firing, there's nothing to worry about. However, to everyone's surprise, He Xiangyang has indeed disappeared, only to have a future He Xiangyang. Across from He Xiangyang's house. I said you guys are in a hurry. I don't understand what my cousin looks like yet. Just watch, after finishing the meal, he still has to apologize to me. Silly Zhu stood at his doorstep and said proudly. After several years of Ichi's guidance, Silly Zhu felt that he had completely controlled He Xiangyang and was not worried about what this cousin would do. Wait for him to come over and apologize. Speak up and don't act. Tomorrow we still have to go to work. Of course, it's only natural for my brother to teach my younger brother a lesson. Dare to hide in the room for a day this time, will you dare to run outside and not come back next time? This kind of unhealthy trend cannot be fostered. Beside the silly pillar, an old man wearing a blue vest, holding an enamel cup, with a flat head, said. The old man is Yi Zhonghai, the first master of the courtyard. The existence of a level 8 fitter in a steel rolling mill, who is skilled in manually rubbing submarines. His hands were placed on the parts, and he could sense the difference in the thickness of a quarter of his hair, which was evident in the cow batch. Master Yi, please keep your heart in your stomach and promise to understand it for him. Silly Zhu said contemptuously. He Xiangyang walked into the room and walked out with an old woman with a face full of flesh and a pair of triangular eyes. The old lady is none other than Zhang. She carried a wooden bucket in her hand, took a few steps, and arrived at He Xiangyang's house, reaching out to pat the door. He Xiangyang, my house is out of water. Go to the front yard and fetch a bucket of water. After speaking, Zhang placed the bucket at the door of He Xiangyang's house and shook her hand as she walked towards the Jia family. Because of his original bousy personality, coupled with Silly Zhu's full support for the Jia family, Zhang's command of He Xiangyang was particularly convenient. The task of fetching water is entrusted to He Xiangyang. Everyone doesn't think there's any problem either. Dead old lady. He Xiangyang put braised pork belly in the pot, looked out of the window and cursed. Wait for him to eat and drink enough before coming out to work. Soon, the smell of braised pork belly filled the room and spread outside the courtyard. 003, braised pork belly in brown sauce is fragrant, and 3 people outside the door are angry. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Where did the fragrance come from? It's so fragrant. This is braised pork belly. Silly Zhu suddenly twitched his nose. My gaze searched the courtyard. Who makes braised pork belly in brown sauce? I haven't thought about what's going on these days. Yi Zhonghai frowned. I feel a bit unhappy in my heart. He is an 8th level fitter who can't bear to eat such a big meat dish as red round meat on weekdays. Who is so high? Profile. It's not that big, Duze. This smell seems to be coming from our courtyard. Silly Zhu agreed. Due to being the head chef of the steel rolling mill, Silly Zhu never lacks food and meat in his daily life. So in terms of eating, Silly Zhu has a sense of superiority in his heart. Now when someone makes braised pork belly, Silly Column is not very happy. It's just that Silly Zhu can't find anyone who makes braised pork belly in brown sauce. As for the He Xiangyang family, Silly Zhu never thought about it at all. Silly Column, He Xiangyang is eating braised pork belly at home. A child who was 7 or 8 years old, with a greedy face, was lying outside the He family window and shouting loudly. He Xiangyang eats braised pork belly. I can't. Silly Zhu was taken aback for a moment and walked over. Yi Zhonghai's gaze flickered and he walked into the room holding an enamel cup. In case Silly Zhu beats He Xiangyang later, whether it's good or bad, he will be present. He Xiangyang in the room naturally heard the sound outside the window. Turning his head, he glanced with a hint of disgust in his eyes. He walked over to the window and closed it with a cloth curtain. The child who is shouting loudly is the eldest son of the Jia family, Jia General. He is also known as Xiaohaobangjian. I have been a bad student since I was young. I learned to sneak around at the age of 5 or 6, and every household in the courtyard has been harmed by the stick. Take some melon seeds, peanuts, and snacks with broken mouths. The child is young and the adults in the courtyard are not easy to care about, coupled with Jia Zhang's favoritism in protecting the short. I have developed a bad habit of using memes to cheat, being slippery, and having unclean hands and feet. For the others in the courtyard, Bang Ji still makes a show of himself. For He Xiangyang, the stick meme has always been a lively attitude. He treats Silly Zhu like this, not to mention He Xiangyang, who is 1 level lower than Silly Zhu. It's like using He Xiangyang as a tool to manipulate. He Xiangyang, give me braised pork belly. The window is covered by curtains, and you can't see what's inside, which is frustrating. Bang you, Xiangyang is really making braised pork belly in it. Are you right? Silly Zhu walked over and asked. His iron pot is steaming hot, and the fragrance comes from this house. Don't believe you smell it. Hurry up and let He Xiangyang open the door, he's so greedy for me. Bang Ji had an impatient expression on his face. Silly Zhu sniffled. No, the smell of braised pork belly really comes from He Xiangyang's home. When did this kid buy meat without telling me? It seems that I softened my heart yesterday and had to make a heavy move to make him suffer. Otherwise, this kid wouldn't know what to do behind my back. You wait, I'll let him open the door now. Silly Zhu felt very angry in his heart. Walking to He Xiangyang's doorstep, he reached out and slammed the door vigorously, saying, Xiangyang, open the door. Sunward. I took several photos, but there was no movement inside. He Xiangyang sat on the bench, squinting his eyes and smelling the fragrance. Very enjoyable. Don't even glance at the door. Xiangyang, open the door. I have something to talk to you about. You're being cunning now. You bought meat without telling me, closed the door and hid at home to eat alone. I'm telling you, our old He family doesn't have you to handle things like that. Silly Pillar was talking outside the gate, asking He Xiangyang to open the door. My heart is about to crack with anger. I made up my mind that as long as He Xiangyang opened the door, he would have to slap He Xiangyang a few times. Oh my God, I dare to make him wait outside the door. Lack of cleaning up. Silly Pillar, can you do it? Quickly open the door, don't wait for He Xiangyang to finish the meat. I can't even drink soup. Bang Ji is in a hurry, scratching his ears and cheeks. Unable to see any movement in the room, the stick-brained He Xiangyang devoured the meat, finishing it all. The more I think, the more anxious I become. Silly Pillar, He Xiangyang didn't say a word for a while. Did he choke inside? Quickly open the door and take a look, don't let anything happen. Zhang shook the fat off her body and ran over quickly. She has been watching Jia's door, thinking that when He Xiangyang opens the door, she will enter the house to eat some braised pork belly. Unexpectedly, the door of He Xiangyang's house remained unopened, and it was not easy to let the Silly Pillar shout. Zhang is in a hurry. He Xiangyang, if you don't open the door again, don't blame me for being impolite. Bang! Silly Zhu kicked hard on the door of He Xiangyang's house. The sound of the door bolt clicking was eventually blocked. On the contrary, Silly Zhu's legs and feet were numb from the shock. With a sigh, he bent over and hugged his right leg, his face twitching in pain. Who? He Xiangyang let out a deep breath, and the veins on his forehead were faintly prominent. Bullying people too much. If he didn't receive the system reward, with his temper, he would have rushed out with a knife and fought desperately against Silly Zhu. Now, He Xiangyang has full confidence and is not in a hurry at all. Work hard, work hard. Wait and see how I deal with you guys. Pop. Bang Ji grabbed a stone and smashed it hard on the window glass of He Xiangyang's house. The glass shattered all over the ground. Stick Stem reached out and pulled the curtain open. I happened to see He Xiangyang sitting at the dining table, preparing to eat. The pieces of braised pork belly were piled on the plate, shiny with oil and water. The eyes that stick memes look at must emit green light. He Xiangyang, you're eating alone at home. Quickly open the door and share it with me. The stick meme shouted loudly. My water bucket is half an hour old here. You don't need to fetch water, just leave it at home to eat meat. It's not a good thing. Hurry up and get me some water. Zhang's eyes twitched, wanting to take He Xiangyang away. When the time comes, this dish of braised pork belly can be brought to Jia's house for her to enjoy. Xiangyang, at least I'm also your cousin. When I get to your doorstep, you don't even open it for me. What do you mean? Do you think you can handle it, or what? Silly Pillar is full of anger. He Xiangyang paid no attention at all. Add a bowl of rice, slowly pick up a piece of braised pork belly and put it into your mouth. Chew a few bites. TSK, this taste is absolutely amazing. The three people outside the window saw He Xiangyang start eating, jumping up and down in a hurry. Unfortunately, there is no way to open the door. I can only watch helplessly as He Xiangyang has a delicious meal. Jia Zhongshi and the batten angrily cursed, belittling He Xiangyang to nothing. Silly Zhu's face turned black like charcoal, and his finger bones turned white from pinching. Yi Zhonghai's family. Yi Zhonghai looked through the window crack at the movement of He Xiangyang's home, his eyebrows furrowed deeply. Something's wrong. What is He Xiangyang's personality? Yi Zhonghai understands it very well. Cowardly, honest, cowardly. Faced with silly pillars, they are even more submissive and say whatever they say. It's abnormal to be able to hold on this time and prevent Silly Zhu from entering the house. Old man, do you want to go and take a look? I'll take a look at Silly Zhu's posture, and I'll designate him to take action against He Xiangyang later. He's impatient, please watch him carefully and don't let the silly pillar cause any trouble for He Xiangyang, it's not easy to end. Auntie said on the side. Humph, this time He Xiangyang really needs to let Silly Zhu tidy up well. If you don't tidy up, you can't control it. Yi Zhonghai sneered and prepared to watch the play. Wait until Silly Zhu is almost done, he will appear again. This is just right. He Xiangyang calmly finished his meal and stood up to glance at the three people outside the window, their eyes turning red. Lift your legs and walk towards the door. I'm full now, it's time to work. 004, the martial arts play is on, Silly Pillar pulled it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The commotion at He Xiangyang's doorstep attracted several households to watch the excitement. Silly Pillar, come on, your cousin doesn't even listen to you anymore. Su Damao stood not far away, smiling and arched the fire. Su Damao, please shut up for me. It's not your turn to intervene in my Mr. He family's affairs. Silly Pillar tilted his gaze and glared angrily. He. Su Damao chuckled and waited to see the excitement in the He family's house. He has this personality since childhood, lacking in manners, and likes to pick things up. I have been beaten up by silly pillars. From childhood to adulthood, Su Damao suffered more losses, but he was not convinced and picked a foolish stick to play with whenever he had something to do. Mrs. Jia is really shameless. While others are eating at home, she and her grandson are scolding outside. How could someone handle things like this? Yuli looked at the ancestors and grandchildren of the Jia family with contempt. To be honest, this matter ultimately belongs to the He family. Foolish Zhu, teach your younger brother a lesson. Let's just watch the excitement. Didn't you see that none of the three masters in our courtyard have moved? I can't control them. But you're right, Mrs. Jia is really not something. Aunt San whispered. The mother.in.law and daughter.in.law were holding hands and also watching. There aren't many short videos, online novels, and even TV shows these days. Big guys have very few entertainment options. Everyone gathered to watch the play when there was any activity from any household. Silly Zhu saw more and more people nearby, but the door to He Xiangyang's house refused to open. Feeling ashamed, my heart became even angrier. Coming out, He Xiangyang is coming out. Silly Zhu, teach him a hard lesson. Bang Ji suddenly shouted, his eyes filled with hatred. He saw He Xiangyang preparing to go out. It's not even good for my grandson to crave, we have to deal with him. Jia Zhang wiped the saliva from the corner of her mouth, and her triangular eyes sparkled with resentment. In Jia Zhang's view, if there is something delicious, of course, he must take care of his precious grandson from the Jia family. He Xiangyang is nothing. Why should he eat braised pork belly? Click. The door opens. He Xiangyang appeared inside the threshold. The melon-eating crowd around He Xiangyang's doorstep took a few steps forward. My eyes were filled with anticipation. Next, it must be an unmissable play. Kneel down. Silly Zhu had a stern face, clenched his fist, and shouted loudly. I want to use years of prestige to force He Xiangyang to kneel down. Bring back the shame of losing oneself. He Xiangyang's gaze was flat, looking at the silly pillar in front of him. Take a step and walk out the door. You his mother. Silly Zhu was completely angry and extended his big hand. While cursing, his big hand fiercely thrust towards He Xiangyang's face. At this moment, he was filled with anger and had forgotten Yi Zhonghai's advice. We must clean up He Xiangyang and be honest. Even if we beat He Xiangyang up, we still have to do it. Jia Zhangshi and Bang Gung widened their eyes and showed an uplifted and relieved expression on their faces. Don't give me meat to eat, let's see how Silly Zhu beats you to death. After Silly Zhu finished teaching He Xiangyang a lesson, the two of them still wanted to search He Xiangyang's house. Maybe we can still find the leftover pork belly. Pop. The palm landed on the cheek, making a crisp sound. The play officially begins. It's not what the big guy thought of as a foolish pillar rampaging away, He Xiangyang. But it was He Xiangyang who gave Silly Zhu a big pussy. Although it was foolish Zhu who started, He Xiangyang was faster and came first. Everyone widened their eyes and their mouths turned into an O shape. Jia Zhangshi and Bang Gung's eyeballs are about to pop out. Silly Zhu slapped and was completely confused. Pain is one aspect, but more of a psychological shock. Lying down, I was actually beaten by He Xiangyang. He Xiangyang, this little brat, dares to hit me. Silly pillar is furious. I'm about to raise my hand and fight back. Pop. Silly Zhu received another slap on the right cheek. Ah. Silly Zhu let out a loud roar, clenched his fists with 5 fingers, and headed towards He Xiangyang. Pop pop. Bang. He Xiangyang extended his right hand, thrusting back and forth in one breath. Lift your leg and kick the silly pillar down the doorstep. Oh my God, why is He Xiangyang so fierce? He Xiangyang is this. He's possessed by ghosts, isn't he? Silly pillar was fucked by He Xiangyang. Old lady, come and pinch my big crotch. The big guy recovered from the shock and the sound of discussion was like boiling water boiling to 100%, rolling around. Jia Zhang quickly pulled the stick and hid behind. I dare not jump and curse. Behind the crack in Yi's window, Yi Zhonghai couldn't even hold the enamel cup firmly when he saw this scene. He Xiangyang hits the silly pillar. This situation has wrapped him up. Old man, there's a fight, why don't you go? Aunt Yi urged. Now go and persuade them to leave, isn't that a cheap deal for He Xiangyang? I will go and persuade He Xiangyang to fight after Silly Zhu cleans up He Xiangyang. Yi Zhonghai gritted his teeth and said. Feeling that Silly Zhu was just a momentary carelessness, he was caught off guard by He Xiangyang. When Silly Zhu regains his strength, he will definitely teach He Xiangyang a hard lesson. In the courtyard of the courtyard. He Xiangyang, I must kill you. Silly Zhu heard everyone's discussion, felt the ridicule and mockery cast by them, looked down upon him, and felt a burning pain on his face. My eyes are so angry that they are about to protrude. Ignoring the pain in his stomach, he propped himself up on the ground and rushed towards He Xiangyang on the steps. Bang! He Xiangyang simply kicked and the silly pillar flew out again. This kick hit silly pillar's chest. I kicked the silly pillar out of breath, and it took me several breaths to catch my breath. Then, the foolish pillar who did not believe in evil continued to charge. He cannot accept this result. Especially now in front of so many people, he doesn't have face. Bang! Bang! After being kicked twice in a row, Silly Zhu couldn't move. Lowering his head, he began to doubt life. He Xiangyang walked down the stairs, grabbing Silly Zhu's hair with one hand and swinging it fiercely with the other. Pop 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 pop. Silly Zhu tried his best to resist, but was smashed to the ground by He Xiangyang and stomped on with his foot. Every step made He Xiangyang feel a little relieved in his heart. Eating and drinking enough of the dry beasts, it's really a godsend. Silly Zhu curled up on the ground, holding his head in both hands, like a cooked shrimp. Stop it. Yi Zhonghai couldn't hide and walked out of the room, shouting loudly to stop. He Xiangyang continued to step on it. I told you to stop. Jia Cheng, Guangtian, pull He Xiangyang away from me. Yi Zhonghai was annoyed and ordered people to work. Yan Jicheng is the second son of the Yan family, and Lu Guangtian is the second son of the Liu family. In this era, there was no family planning, and every household was willing to have more children, with only 3 or 4 children. Grandpa loves his eldest son, while his mother loves his youngest son. The second son sandwiched in the middle is not well received. Yan Jicheng and Lu Guangtian are such unjust individuals. The two of them watched as He Xiangyang became more aggressive and dared not approach. I took a few slow steps. He Xiangyang stomped hard again. I stopped beating Silly Zhu and took 2 steps back. In front of so many people, it's almost time to beat the silly pillar and vent his anger. We can't really kill people. Killing someone means paying for it. It's not appropriate to trade it with silly pillars. 005, Yi Zhonghai pulls the crossbar, and He Xiangyang angrily opposes it. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Silly pillar, are you doing well? How did you hit me the day before yesterday? Today, a man will give you back, relax your muscles and bones, and make you feel comfortable. He Xiangyang lowered his head and looked down at Silly Pillar. It's very soothing. Silly Pillar lay on the ground, clenching his fists tightly. The gums are about to be bitten apart. What are you still waiting for? Hurry up and help Silly Pillar up. Yi Zhonghai gave orders to Lu Guangtian and Yan Jicheng. But in his heart, he was secretly surprised that He Xiangyang had found some dog bile to eat. Dare to beat up Silly Zhu and not say anything, yet dare not listen to him. He is an old man in the courtyard, an 8th-level fitter in the steel rolling mill. Regardless of his status, he can steadily take care of He Xiangyang. Yi Zhonghai decided to take advantage of this opportunity to tidy up He Xiangyang well, otherwise this courtyard would be unmanageable. Lu Guangtian and Yan Jicheng just stepped forward and pulled up the silly pillar on the ground. Silly Zhu's cheeks were swollen, like a big pig's head, and his brain was buzzing with melon seeds. As soon as he stood up, he glared fiercely at He Xiangyang. I am not convinced in my heart. If it weren't for the severe pain on his body, he would still want to rush over and beat up He Xiangyang. The incident escalated, and everyone in the courtyard gathered around. Lu Hai and Yan Fugui walked to the edge of Yi Zhonghai, and the 3 masters met. He Xiangyang, you've really turned your back. If I don't let you stop, are you going to kill Silly Zhu? You are a bully. Even bandits and bullies cannot catch up with what you have done. This matter must be given to Silly Zhu and an explanation must be given to our courtyard. Yi Zhonghai is full of vitality and promotes expansion. Hatting He Xiangyang, trying to force him to soften. Grandpa Yi, don't set the tone so high. I was bullied when I hit Silly Zhu. When Silly Zhu hit me the day before yesterday, I didn't see you say that. What, just let Silly Zhu hit me and don't allow me to fight back. You're pulling the frame too hard, aren't you? He Xiangyang said calmly. You, what's wrong with me? Don't talk nonsense. Silly Zhu is your brother, so he should take care of you. Not to mention, when your father left, he handed you over to Silly Zhu to watch over. This is something everyone knows. He hit you, that's my brother teaching my younger brother a lesson, it's for your own good. Yi Zhonghai argued strongly. To be a courtyard master, one must handle things fairly and justly. Even if we pull it off the side, we still need a bowl of water to be even on the surface. Without the support of the masses, this courtyard master cannot work anymore. It's this logic. What's wrong with my younger brother, who is in charge of me? Isn't that how everyone manages things? It's you who dares to fight me. I'll take care of you for nothing. Silly Zhu nodded repeatedly. Grandpa, we need to speak truthfully and not blindly. I can see all the days I've been living with Silly Zhu, being both a cow and a horse. After the cows and horses finish their work, at least there is still grass. What should I eat? Brown rice and corn paste. Is this something that humans can do? I took all of my salary from the steel rolling mill and used my own money to buy a braised dish. Silly Zhu beat me half a bit, is that for my good? He Xiangyang ignored Silly Zhu and said to himself. Silly Zhu is really not good at He Xiangyang. With such a big person, he earns a lot and eats poorly. No one can accept it. Buying food with my own money is a matter that even if my father comes, he can't care about it. That's not a big deal, Silly Zhu's heart is too dark, he deserves to be beaten. Big guys are all speaking up. I think what He Xiangyang said is not wrong. Silly Zhu felt another pain on his face. Did he do it poorly? Silly Zhu doesn't feel like he did a bad job, it's all because He Xiangyang spoke up about these things, causing him to be discussed by everyone in the courtyard. As the saying goes, family shame should not be exposed. This cousin is too restless. Lu Haizhong's eyes lit up and he glanced at He Xiangyang. How could this kid speak so fluently? I didn't notice it before. Now that He Xiangyang and Yi Zhonghai are involved, Lu Haizhong feels that he has seen an opportunity to attack Yi Zhonghai. Turning his head to look at Yan Fugui. Coincidentally, Yan Fugui also looked over. The two eyes met and understood. Yi Zhonghai is a master of the grand courtyard, wielding immense power, which makes both of them lose their sense of existence. Both of them were unhappy in their hearts. If there is a chance to lose something, both of them are willing to take sides. I can't say that. Silly Pillar collects your salary, which will be saved for you to use in your future marriage. He hit you when you bought braised pork, not because you bought braised pork, but because he was angry that you stole money and didn't tell him. If you want to tell him you want something delicious to eat, can he not buy it for you? Yi Zhonghai forcefully defended himself. Right, that's right. As an older brother, can I take your money? Buying a braised soup is nothing, I'm just worried that you might spend money recklessly and go astray. Silly Zhu repeatedly agreed, wanting to change his image. Is that really the case? He Xiangyang asked. That's really the case. Silly Zhu nodded. Okay, you can give me last month's salary and I'll buy something delicious to make up for it. He Xiangyang reached out his hand. No way. Silly Zhu firmly refused. Is that really not possible? He Xiangyang has a cold face. Don't push your nose and face at me, I'll tell you. Silly Zhu is annoyed. After being beaten up, I still have to pay a few dozen yuan. Is he stupid? I still felt weak just now. He Xiangyang rushed forward with one swift step and raised his hand, making a mouthful. Draw the silly pillar into 5 puzzles and 3 paths. After a slap, followed by a few old punches. The silly pillar bent down in pain and hugged his stomach. He Xiangyang, if you take any more action, I'll call the police. Don't say I didn't give you a chance. Yi Zhonghai's lungs are about to explode. Dare to take action in front of him. Have you taken him seriously as an old man? Hurry up and call the police. Whoever doesn't call the police is my grandson. I also told the police that someone stole my salary and asked them to help me recover it. He Xiangyang punched heavily while shouting loudly. You stop first, I'll let Silly Zhu give you the salary. Yi Zhonghai is really numb this time, he can only slow down his posture. He Xiangyang stepped on Silly Pillar's chest with one foot, as if pressing down on a big 8. Not released. Silly Zhu, go back and get the money and give He Xiangyang salary. Yi Zhonghai spoke. Grandpa, why give him money? He has been eating and drinking at my house for several years, shouldn't he give me his salary? Silly pillars cry in grievances. Damn it, how much work have I done at your house? I do laundry, cooking, washing dishes, and sweeping the floor all by myself. Child brides are more comfortable than me. What do you call free eating and drinking? Serving your family will be exhausting, and I have to serve those lazy people from the Jia family. Who can you find to help you with these old jobs without spending money? He Xiangyang increased his strength and stepped on the silly pillar, his face turning red. What are you talking about? You're a lazy person, I see. My Jia family is pure and innocent. When did you serve me? Talking stinks more than farting. Upon hearing these words, Zhang became unhappy. Mrs. Jia, the bucket at my doorstep was brought over by a dog, right? Don't shout at me, wait until I finish cleaning up the silly pillar, then I'll argue with you. He Xiangyang counterattacked without hesitation. Mrs. Jia, there is really a bucket at the door of He Xiangyang. Who took it over? Does anyone in my yard have a dog? No, isn't that right? The bucket walked over by itself. Maybe it was taken over by a big fat dog, and there's a possibility of this. The courtyard surrounded by onlookers was overjoyed. Make fun of Zhang and make various mockery. You are the dog, your whole family is a dog. If you're willing to help, that's because you're a lowly person. My Jia family didn't beg you. Zhang was in a fit of rage. Give Huiru a glance beside her. Huiru quickly brought the bucket back to the Jia family, so as not to let people continue to laugh. 006, proposed to split up and settle the money with me. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Okay, everyone has heard that. Whoever takes the initiative to help the Jia family is a lowly thing. The Jia family doesn't need anyone else's help. He Xiangyang laughed and shouted. The big guy's face is not very good. The head of the Jia family is called Jia Dongshu. Several years ago, he died in an accident at the steel rolling mill due to an operational error. After that, the Jia family used the excuse that they didn't have a pillar to support their family and sold sympathy in the courtyard. Often receiving help from others in the courtyard. Now when Zhang said this, it was like stabbing those who were helping the Jia family. Helping the Jia family is despicable. Before anyone helps the Jia family in the future, one must not ponder. Zhang also knew that she had said the wrong thing, and she couldn't apologize. Can only stare fiercely at He Xiangyang. I wish I could bite off a piece of meat from He Xiangyang. Silly Zhu, do you understand? Hurry up and bring me the money. If you don't take the money, let's go to the police station and chat. Don't pretend to be dead with me. He Xiangyang lowered his head and looked down. Silly pillar, go get the money. Yi Zhonghai spoke with a stern expression and gave Silly Zhu a glance. First, pacify He Xiangyang. Even if the money reaches He Xiangyang's hands, he cannot spend it all. There are plenty of opportunities to take back. Silly Zhu gritted his teeth hard, got up from the ground, and went back to the house to get the money. You're my younger brother. Can I take this money from you? I'll keep it all for you. Listen to my brother, I'll keep the money for you and give it to you when you get married. Silly Zhu took the money back and tightly held it in his hand, constantly persuading. At this moment, he still doesn't want to give. Bring it to you. He Xiangyang reached out and snatched the money from Silly Zhu's hand. I clicked, it's 30.1 yuan and 50 cents. Damn it, Silly Zhu counted in the 1 yuan he spent on buying braised pork. Do you believe me this time? Silly Zhu is your cousin. Can he deceive you? Listen to my advice, one should be magnanimous and not think so badly of others. Yi Zhonghai began regular training. That's right, I don't have no salary. Can I ask for your money? Over the years, you've been following me. I've reduced your food and drink, and shortened your clothes. Your current attitude is chilling. Stupid pillar complains. I think He Xiangyang doesn't consider him a brother. Inside and outside, there are complaints. The big guys nodded when they saw this. Although Silly Zhu was not good to He Xiangyang, he did not deceive others in the matter of money. 3 gentlemen, and all the neighbors, everyone is here today. I have something to say. I, He Xiangyang, officially split up with He Yuzhu. He Xiangyang shouted loudly. Separation, it's good. Why are you separating? Silly Zhu suddenly became anxious. After dividing the family, how will he receive He Xiangyang's salary in the future? Yi Zhonghai's face slightly changed and his eyebrows furrowed together. Today, He Xiangyang's performance was too abnormal. Even Yi Zhonghai couldn't understand the reasons behind various operations. It seems like someone else has changed. 2 years ago, I started working as an apprentice fitter in a steel mill, earning a monthly salary of 27.5 yuan. I paid my 2 years' salary to Silly Zhu. Now I want to split up. Silly Zhu, please settle the money with me. Excluding food and drink, calculated at 20 yuan per month, for 24 months, the total is 480 yuan. He Xiangyang continued. What, 480 yuan? There's not so much, you really can talk. Silly Zhu's subconscious denial. He doesn't even have 480 yuan in his savings, so he can't afford to give it to He Xiangyang. Mr. Yi, just now you said, Silly Zhu took my money to help me save money and marry my wife. Now that I want to split the family, shouldn't this money be given to me? He Xiangyang looked at Yi Zhonghai. If we split up, we should indeed give it. Just this amount, you 2 brothers need to add it up. I'm not a stranger to intervene. Yi Zhonghai indicates no blending. Separation is possible, there's not a penny. You have been paid for the past 2 years, but before you started working, I had to support you for free. Why don't you say that? Stupid pillar said arrogantly. When my dad was leaving, he left me 176 yuan and 0.3 cents, which he gave you without giving a penny. I have a city household registration, and I have a monthly supply of guaranteed food. I can afford to eat 5 yuan of food a month. After a year, I will start working. 170.6 yuan and 3 cents. After eating for a year, the big guy said, is this even? He Xiangyang spoke up about what happened back then. Let the big guy evaluate. I didn't expect that Xiangyang's father had left so much money, and Silly Zhu had earned it. Xiao costs 100 yuan and has been raising a child for a year. He doesn't even need any change. Silly Zhu, this is bullying Xiangyang. I don't understand. Xiangyang is really skilled at working at home. Even if he doesn't have the money, he can still support such a child at home without losing money. Big guys are expressing their opinions one after another. Just having enough to eat, the cost is not really high. 5 yuan a month is enough. The income of urban subsistence allowance households is less than 5 yuan per person. This is the official line. If the per capita income exceeds 5 yuan, it is not considered a difficult household and cannot die from hunger. No matter how cunning Silly Zhu is, he cannot argue with the official standards. After you start working, your food and clothing expenses have also increased, and a set of clothes costs several yuan. More than 7 yuan a month, what's enough for? Silly Zhu said defiantly. Silly pillar, you really have the face to say. After work, you took all the new work clothes that the factory sent me to wear, and I wore the old work clothes you wore. Big guy, take a look. This is the old work clothes of Silly pillar on me, I can't even lift them up. He Xiangyang raised his arm, and the clothes at his armpits were tightly stretched. Silly Zhu was already shorter than He Xiangyang, not to mention He Xiangyang took the dragon and tiger pill, and his height increased slightly. The clothes don't fit even better. Silly Zhu did something really outrageous. Wearing new clothes and giving old clothes to He Xiangyang is too bullying. No wonder I haven't seen He Xiangyang wearing new clothes before. The reason for his courage is here. The big guy looked at the silly pillar with disdain. As an older brother, no one else can fall for this. No wonder He Xiangyang proposed splitting the family. I can't bear this treatment on anyone. He Xiangyang, don't count everything as money. Think about it, if it weren't for me taking care of you, could you have grown so big? Money, 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 money. I see you're just trying to see through money. Silly Zhu couldn't help but start playing emotional cards. That's right, I did go for money. 2 years' salary, totaling 480, do you want to take it or not? He Xiangyang is too lazy to argue. I don't have a penny, I'll take whatever I want. Silly Pillar shook his head. Don't blame me for being ruthless. He Xiangyang's eyes were cold and sharp. He ran back into the room and took out an iron rod. There are ways to not get money, even if you can't get it. Even if you waste a leg, it's okay. The big guy's face has changed. He Xiangyang, this is for real fun. Qingming outing and happy reading. Charge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period. April 4th to April 6th. 007, give you face. You really don't want by Lian. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Silly Zhu looked at something wrong and hid behind Yi Zhonghai. He Xiangyang, you can split the family, but it's really difficult for a fool to come up with 480 yuan. No matter how Silly Zhu treats you, he will eventually take care of you. This kindness cannot be exchanged for any amount of money. In my opinion, you two should separate and not owe each other. What do you think? Yi Zhonghai applies the method of mixing and diluting mud. It's impossible. My salary is 2 years, and even if I throw it into the water, there will be a splash. Why bother? If I can't get the money, I'll go to the street and talk to the street leaders about this. He Xiangyang firmly refused. He Xiangyang, just give me face and forget about this matter. Everyone is friendly and harmonious, and the days ahead will be long. Yi Zhonghai suppressed his anger and spoke with words in his heart. Give you face. He Xiangyang smiled. Who taught you your skills? If it weren't for me taking care of you in the team, you could have been promoted to a level of fitter in 2 years. You should know that in our fitter team, there are several apprentices who cannot be transferred to formal work for 2 or even 3 years. To be a good person, one must have a conscience and not forget one's roots. That's all for me. Think carefully about it yourself. Yi Zhonghai said deeply. Qin Huairu stood in the crowd, shrank back, her face burning with anger. The wandering gaze, afraid of someone looking at me. She is a fitter apprentice who hasn't been able to transfer to formal work for 3 years. It's like lying down and getting shot. Grandpa Yi is really a good person. It's not a big deal, Mr. Yi is an 8th level fitter. With a few words of guidance, He Xiangyang will benefit immensely. Silly Pillar is not good for He Xiangyang, but He Xiangyang has won the favor of Mr. 1, so it's not enough to give him face. The big guy spoke in a mixed manner. The most stable and reliable way to live a good life these days is to improve technical skills, get promoted, and increase wages. Mastering technical skills is something that can benefit you immensely for a lifetime. The big guy even came up with a picture of Yi Zhonghai patiently teaching He Xiangyang skills with a file in his mind. This is undoubtedly a great favor. Yi Zhonghai, I really want to thank you, his mother. It's not that you keep me busy every day, I'm already a 2nd level fitter now. I have to fetch water, brew tea, have lunch, run errands and deliver letters for you at work, and also do production tasks for Qin Huairu. When you were working, I would move the parts and tools for you. After that, you would carry me on your back. Now you say you have guided me in my skills, how could you be so embarrassed? Speaking of this, He Xiangyang was filled with anger. I revealed all about being taken care of by Yi Zhonghai in the workshop. Having two beasts, Silly Pillar and Yi Zhonghai, spread out on the table, it was a bitter day in their original form. Qin shrank back again. I can't help but gossip in my heart. If you argue, just argue. Why do you always bring me along? You. Yi Zhonghai extended his finger to point at He Xiangyang, trembling with anger. Lao Yi, what He Xiangyang said cannot be true, can you? As an elder, or the first master of the courtyard, can you be so annoying? Lu Haizhong asked in surprise. My heart has already blossomed with joy. Good guy, that's all he's waiting for now. I also don't think Lao Yi is this kind of person. He Xiangyang, this meal can be eaten recklessly, and words cannot be spoken recklessly. You can't have a bad reputation without reason. Yan Fugui followed suit. Both inside and outside the words were stimulating He Xiangyang, asking him to come up with some more exciting information. Pull Yi Zhonghai down from the moral high ground. Yi Zhonghai stole a glance at his own house, his eyes urgent. I am very restless in my heart. This time he stood up, he's really stealing chicken without sacrificing rice. I didn't expect this fire to burn on me. Just now, He Xiangyang said that he still needs to help Qin with production tasks. Qin is here, and everyone can ask her if there is such a thing. Su Damao said with a wicked smile on his face. No matter who is unlucky, Su Damao is happy to see it. How about calling this person a bad embryo? The big guys all looked at Qin Huiru's MMP in her heart should have run home just now to hide. I can't hide it anymore. Qin Huiru, you and Lao Yi Xiangyang are both in the same team. Isn't this like what Xiangyang said? Lu Haizhong asked. Well, Xiangyang has indeed helped me with production tasks. There is no man in my family. Xiangyang has a kind heart and is willing to help me. In fact, without his help, I can still do it. Qin Huiru gritted her scalp and said. As for what He Xiangyang said about doing miscellaneous work for Yi Zhonghai, Qin Huiru dare not say anything. After all, Yi Zhonghai can also be considered one of her gold lords. If she offends the gold lords, who will give her the money? Does Lao Yi often instruct He Xiangyang to do miscellaneous work? To be honest, I can trust Lao Yi's character. This must be confirmed, and Lao Yi must be cleared. Continue to press in the bangs. Qin Huiru swallowed a mouthful of saliva, looked at Yi Zhonghai, and then at He Xiangyang. The inner turmoil. What are you all doing? With so many people watching the excitement, you don't even call me this old lady. An old and kind voice rang out, accompanied by the sound of crutches hitting the ground. Deaf old lady, why did you come? Upon hearing the sound, Yi Zhonghai felt as if he had been granted amnesty. Hurry up and welcome them over. With such an interruption, the big guy's gaze was all on Mrs. Long. Lu Haizhong pursed his lips, but such a great opportunity to undermine Yi Zhonghai's reputation was actually stirred up by the deaf old lady. I stayed inside for a long time and came out for a stroll. The deaf old lady smiled and patted the hand that Aunt Yi was holding onto her. Just now, Yi Zhonghai turned around to look at the room and sent a signal to Aunt Yi to bring in reinforcements. The old couple has been together for decades, and with just one glance, they can understand what the other person is up to. Grandma, take a look, I've been beaten up like this. You have to make decisions for me. Silly Zhu also leaned over and pointed to his swollen cheek, saying. Who beat up my grandson like this? Is there any royal law or heavenly principles? The deaf old lady's kind expression instantly turned ferocious. Protecting the calf is very important. Dead old lady. He Xiangyang cursed in his heart. Unexpectedly, asking Silly Zhu for money would lead to Yi Zhonghai and even bring out the deaf old lady. All three generations, old, middle-aged, and young, are on the battlefield. He Xiangyang has a bad impression of the deaf old lady. This old woman, relying on her status as a martyr's relative, a 5-guarantee household, and an elderly person, is known as the ancestor in the courtyard. With the deliberate praise of Yi Zhonghai and the assistance of the power value of the red flower double stick, silly pillar. Very high status. Grandma, it was He Xiangyang who hit me. I knocked on the door to find him for something. If he doesn't open the door, it's okay. He even beat me up when he goes out. Master Yi brought him to the first level of fitters, and he not only didn't appreciate it, but also said that Master Yi delayed him. Hey, I feel ashamed when someone like him comes from my hometown. Silly Zhu said very wrongly. As my younger brother, I dare to take action against him. This is a great rebellion. Yi Zhonghai took you to the beginning, but you turned your back and didn't recognize anyone, and even smeared him. This is the following offense. He Xiangyang, now you must apologize to Silly Zhu and Yi Zhonghai. The deaf old lady stared at He Xiangyang and pronounced the verdict directly. As for the true situation, she is also aware of it, but she doesn't care about it. Can He Xiangyang provide her with retirement? P.S. Readers and influencers are kindly requested to vote for fresh flowers and provide some support for the author, including the data on price increases. Thank you all. 008, where did Silly Zhu's money go? You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. He Xiangyang smiled. I have a new understanding of the shamelessness of the deaf old lady. Grandma, He Xiangyang wants to split up with me and asked me to give him his salary for the past 2 years. He asked me for 480 yuan. Silly Zhu continued. To be a good person, one must have a conscience. Silly Zhu took your salary, but you don't spend money on food, drink, and salad. Saying that Yi Zhonghai is not good for you, have you transferred to a first-level job? Qin Huiru has been working longer than you, and she hasn't transferred to a first-level job yet. To be a person, one should learn to be content and grateful, otherwise, one would be a wolf with white eyes. Everyone say, am I right? The deaf old lady gave a scolding. MMP. Qin Huiru murmured silently in her heart. Today, even when someone speaks, they pull her out for a walk. Damn it. To be a good person, one must have a conscience. Only by accumulating good deeds can one have good luck. My cousin is better than my own brother. What's bothering me about? This matter is just a confused account. When a family is together, there is no one who can figure it out. The big guy muttered, without a clear statement. After all, what does Silly Zhu do to He Xiangyang? The big guy has eyes and can watch. Being a person and doing things, one has a scale in their heart. Alright, now that you've finished your big story, let me say a few words. I am in my early 20s this year, and I will soon have to find someone to marry me and split up with Silly Zhu. I don't have any money in my hands, so I can't do anything. No matter how much this truth is, I won't be able to fill my stomach and get money, so I'll go to the street and talk about it. He said calmly to Yan. I already have an idea in my heart. This money must be obtained. Holding the system in hand, He Xiangyang didn't care about this small amount of money at all. He asked Silly Zhu for money because his original intention was difficult to calm and he felt uncomfortable for him. But in this situation, receiving the money represents He Xiangyang's own attitude. When I receive the money and my situation stabilizes, none of these people can escape tonight. This younger generation is going to separate families. As elders, you need to say a few words and don't make any mistakes. The deaf old lady looked at Yan Fugui in the bangs. At the end of the day, it's his family's family business, and I won't say much about it. However, if brothers split up, they must have some family background. He Xiangyang can understand why he wants to get money. Slippery in the bangs. I also mean the same thing. When getting married, there are more places to spend money. Without some financial resources, I really can't hold on. Yan Fugui smiled and said. The two of them saw He Xiangyang's performance tonight. It is worth saying a few words to Yang just because they can crush the foolish pillar with force. He Xiangyang glanced in surprise at Yan Fugui in the bangs. After a little thought, I understood in my heart. At present, everyone's interests are aligned, so naturally they can come together. From the original play, these two people are not good either. Liu Haizhong is an official fan with a bad temper. He didn't have a chance to rise to the top in the steel rolling mill, so he indulged himself as an old man in the courtyard. I only worked as a second uncle and was crushed to death by Yi Zhonghai. If anything goes wrong, go home and kick your two sons. The eldest son went to another province to become his son.in.law, while the second and third sons ran far away and never came back to take a glance at the bangs during festivals. It's just right to end up as a lonely old man. Yan Fugui is a master of calculation, always trying to gain some benefits from others. I have calculated my own son and daughter for a lifetime. No one pays their respects when they get old. When it comes to the main figures in the courtyard, there aren't really many who have a good ending. Since you all said that, silly pillar, you can give He Xiangyang 50 yuan. They feel at ease being a white-eyed wolf, we can't do this. The deaf old lady said with some displeasure. 50 yuan. Silly Zhu is even more unhappy. Why should I give He Xiangyang money? He took care of He Xiangyang for 3 years, so He Xiangyang should have given him money. He Xiangyang, 50 yuan is quite a bit, let's steal it and have fun. You have to thank the old lady. If it weren't for her words, you wouldn't have had a penny. Yi Zhonghai felt that 50 yuan was okay and said with an air of pride. I can't talk anymore. Everyone, take a break. Let me go find the street leaders and come back to watch the play. He Xiangyang turned around and left. He asked Silly Zhu to give him 480 yuan, but he agreed to give him 50 yuan. Sending beggars doesn't bring such things. He Xiangyang, what are you doing? Stop him for me. Yi Zhonghai is in a hurry. Who dares to stop me? Grandpa Yi, why don't you stop me and try? He Xiangyang turned around with a mocking expression. Just now, when I hit Silly Zhu, everyone looked at me. Even the red flower double stick was knocked down by He Xiangyang, rubbing and rubbing on the ground. Who can make themselves uncomfortable? Xiangyang, do you have to let Silly Zhu give you 408? Yi Zhonghai is not a fool either, his steps remain motionless. I'm just getting my salary back, don't make it sound like I'm going to rob. He Xiangyang spoke coldly. Yi Zhonghai looked at the deaf old lady. The deaf old lady gently shook her head. She is a martyr's family, and He Xiangyang is also a martyr's family. I went to the street and everyone was of the same level. Silly pillar, you get money for He Xiangyang. A little bit of money, recognizing a white-eyed wolf is not a loss. Yi Zhonghai said. Grandpa Yi, it's not that I don't want to take it. I don't have that old money in my hand. Silly pillar is about to cry. 480 yuan, he really doesn't have it. How could you not have money? When it comes to this, we men cannot afford to lose our share. Yi Zhonghai's mouth twitched slightly, feeling a bit uncomfortable. I only have a savings of around 200 yuan at home. What should I give to 48 yuan? Silly pillar spread out his hand. This time he is really honest, no money is no money. No, silly pillar, you've been working for many years and can't get over 400 yuan. It's not like that. Your monthly salary is 32.5 yuan, while Xiangyang's monthly salary is 37.5 yuan, which adds up to 70 yuan. How could you not have any money? That's right, there are 3 people in your family, 2 workers, and all of them have urban huku. They can't save money to deceive ghosts. Everyone was shocked. With your eyes closed and fingers clenched, it's impossible for Silly Pillar to be unable to pull out 480. No one believes it. Silly Pillar, let's eat food at night, and you'll be gnawing money in the bed at night. Su Damao said with a strange smile. Silly Pillar remained silent. Even Su Damao's ridicule was ignored. Where did your money go? The deaf old lady asked with a stern expression. My heart is also flustered. Qinhuairu is more anxious than a deaf old lady. I don't think today is a good day. Everything has been brought up to oneself. Where did Silly Zhu's money go? Qinhuairu knew best that it had all gone to her pocket. But is this something that can be said? Grandpa Yi, why don't you lend me 200 yuan and close my hands with over 200 yuan to get rid of this matter? Silly Zhu couldn't help but come up with a solution. He doesn't want to reveal Qinhuairu and make her difficult. Qin Jia must be able to appreciate my thoughtfulness. Silly Zhu was even moved by his spirit of sacrifice. What? 3 question marks popped up on Yi Zhonghai's brain. Melon seeds. After I helped you with everything, did you stab me with your backhand? Yi Zhonghai wants to jump and curse at his mother. With so many people watching, it's not easy for him to directly refuse Silly Zhu's request. 009, ask the Jia family to compensate for the glass money, but the Jia and Zhang families will splash it out. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. When I pass this hurdle, I will slowly repay you the money. Silly Zhu continued, blinking at Yi Zhonghai. The more I think about it, the more I feel capable of it. Isn't He Xiangyang asking for money? Give it to him and see how many days he can earn it. His silly money is not easy to get, let He Xiangyang spit it out with both principal and interest. He Xiangyang, you have to think carefully. If you really get this money, your relationship will be gone. Don't even think about my craft. You follow me to learn. 2nd-level workers and 3rd-level workers are all small things. Do you really want to give up your future for this little money? Yi Zhonghai gritted his teeth and said. The money borrowed doesn't belong to oneself anymore. I understand Yi Zhonghai's age so well. I also want to fight for myself. My skill level doesn't bother you anymore. He Xiangyang sneered. Silly Pillar, let's go back to the house and get the money. Yi Zhonghai said with a black face. The 2 of them went back to their respective homes, withdrew money, and put it together. He Xiangyang, our brother's last bit of affection is right here. You took the money, let's go our separate ways. If anything happens to you in the future, don't say that I'm not a big brother. It really made Silly Zhu hand over the money, and he felt heartbroken again. I spent 1 yuan on a braised dish and almost got killed by you. If you want to eat braised pork belly at home, you need to unload my door. Now, instead of talking to me about brotherhood, do you deserve it? He Xiangyang grabbed the money and put it in his pocket. Okay, you kid can do it. Silly Zhu pointed at He Xiangyang's nose and said. I have already thought of several plans in my heart. Let him suffer such a big loss, wait. Starting today, He Yuzhu and He Xiangyang officially split up, and from now on, they will be 2 separate families. Yi Zhonghai shouted loudly. I didn't expect He Xiangyang to be so tough this time. In my 20s, when the bar is hard, I will do the same. I have known for a long time that there will be such a day when Tiger Father has no son, and we don't know what He Xiangyang's father will be like. It's just a matter of time. You're really saying that? This child has a bit of a temper like his father. The big guy couldn't help but sigh. Grandpa Yi, I have something else to say. He Xiangyang spoke up. Take advantage of everyone being around and settle the small matters together. What else do you have? Yi Zhonghai is very impatient. The stick meme smashed the window glass of my house, and the Jia family has to compensate me. It's almost November, it's getting cold and there's no windshield. What should I do if I catch a cold? He Xiangyang said. I'm sorry, you still have the face to ask for glass money. When my eldest grandson was growing up, he wanted to eat a piece of braised pork belly in your family. Eating alone with the door closed deserves smashing your glass. Do you still want my family to lose money and give you my life? Before Yi Zhonghai could speak, Zhang jumped out. The spittle star sprayed in one gulp. If you don't lose money, don't even think about the window glass of the Jia family. He Xiangyang had anticipated and remained calm. Zhang is the most annoying in the original work. He always says, dog food is hiding at home eating alone, and I don't know how to bring it over to my grandson's health. It can be seen that this person has a distorted outlook and is beyond redemption. If Zhang didn't make a fuss, He Xiangyang would still find it strange. Listen, everyone listen. He Xiangyang is going to smash our glass. He's bullying my orphan and widowed mother from the Jia family. Zhang's facial transformation speed is extremely fast. Put on a look of being wronged and let out loud screams. He Xiangyang didn't beep much and bent down to pick up a brick. He Xiangyang, Bang Ji is still a child. Isn't it normal for him to make mistakes without understanding? You're a big man, why bother with children? Huiru said with a grievance. If children don't understand, can adults still not understand? Your family's meme smashed my window glass, so the parents should compensate and take the meme back to teach him a lesson. Do you think he dares to do something bad? Being used to a child is like killing a child. You don't understand this truth, sooner or later, big things will happen with stick jokes. He Xiangyang said coldly. You still kill me, I see you look like a fool. Didn't you just smash your glass? You dare to curse my grandson, you must die so hard. Wait, you'll be hit by a car when you go out. Zhang jumped up in anger and cursed. Stick memes are her beloved treasures, and she can't hear any bad words about stick memes. He Xiangyang turned his head and walked towards the Jia family. Smash, if you have the ability, smash here. Bullying my orphan and widowed mother from the Jia family, I don't want to live anymore. Zhang stopped He Xiangyang, stretched out his fat head and big ears, pointing at his forehead and shouting. Mr. Yi, now it's the Jia family who smashed my glass. You can put it here and pretend to be dead, and I won't say anything. Don't wait for me to smash the glass of the Jia family, you come back to life, host fairly. He Xiangyang certainly cannot smash Zhang's head. Although he really wants to do this. But with so many people watching, we can't come blindly. When the black light went out, He Xiangyang would surely let Zhang know why the flowers were so red. Huiru, this is indeed a joke that smashed the glass of He Xiangyang's family. You should compensate him a few cents and get it done. Yi Zhonghai frowned and said. Don't worry, wait for He Xiangyang to smash the glass of the Jia family. This matter has been going on endlessly, and in the end, it was still him who had a headache. Grandpa Yi, I'll listen to you. Huiru nodded, feeling unhappy in enduring it. In front of the courtyard people, give Yi Zhonghai face. What's the cost of compensation? Too much money burns, right? I won't compensate, you see if he dares to smash it. Zhang was furious, as if he was about to lose 1 billion. Mom, if we don't lose money, I'm not afraid of him. Bang Gung hid behind Zhang and spoke. I hate He Xiangyang deeply in my heart. Previously, even the memes could command He Xiangyang to do whatever he was asked to do. Now He Xiangyang suddenly becomes stubborn and dares to come and cause trouble. Stick memes wish they could kill him. Hey, Grandpa Yi has already spoken. Huiru sighed. Very weak and helpless. Sister, I'll give it to you. How much is a piece of glass worth? Some people just like to haggle over every detail, but they can't afford it in the future. Silly Zhu stood up. blatantly damaging others. Zhang remained silent. Someone carries the blame, and she just looks at it. A dry howl wastes one's throat. Silly Zhu, thank you so much. Qin Huiru smiled. This smile made Silly Zhu feel it was worth it. He Xiangyang, I'll compensate you 30 cents for a piece of glass. Silly Zhu took out 3 cents and said arrogantly. Yi Zhonghai's face twitched twice. Good guy, if you don't have the money to borrow from me, then turn around and spend money on someone else. Thinking that Silly Zhu was the chosen elderly care candidate, Yi Zhonghai endured. 3 cents is not enough, we'll get 6 cents. I need a measuring ruler, I have to go to the store to buy glass, and I have to arrange it. It takes time and effort, and I have to calculate the cost. He Xiangyang said. You. Okay, 6 cents is 6 cents. Hold on to this money and keep it for medical expenses. The hatred in Silly Zhu's eyes is about to emerge. Just write the 4 big characters, I want to fuck you, on your face. Okay, feel free to come up with any tricks. He Xiangyang took the money and looked playful. Will he be afraid of fools causing trouble? It's done. The big guys have all scattered. Yi Zhonghai shouted and tugged at Silly Zhu's hand, let's go, come with me into the house. Silly Zhu turned his head and grudged He Xiangyang, then followed Yi Zhonghai away. 010, The Real Hammer, He Xiangyang is a white-eyed wolf. You are listening at Novel Full.Audio. Auntie also brought the deaf old lady back to the room. 4 people are sitting at the table, 1 person on one side. Silly pillar, what's going on here? He Xiangyang seems to have changed a person. Yi Zhonghai spoke up. A face full of confusion. I don't know. Yesterday I beat him up, and he took a breath and ran into the house with me for a day. After coming out, it was like this. I'm still upset about this, Grandpa Yi. What do you think this is? Silly Zhu had a forced expression on his face. I also scratched my hair. I don't know either. Yi Zhonghai spread out his hands, his mind buzzing with melon seeds. It was clearly about asking Silly Zhu, but he said a few useless words and asked him the other way around. What the hell is that? This is good. Xiangyang, this child suddenly has a big change in personality, isn't it just a case of encountering evil spirits? Auntie guessed. Definitely not, can people who run into evil speak so fluently? Yi Zhonghai waved his hand and denied this speculation. In my opinion, He Xiangyang has been plotting for a long time, and we have all been deceived by him. The deaf old man said with a cold face. A cold light flickered in his eyes, revealing a determined expression. Old lady, how do you say that? Yi Zhonghai asked. What I mean is, He Xiangyang's previous performance was all about pretending. He deliberately pretended to be honest and deceived us. When he was transferred to a first-level worker, he would immediately turn against us. This kid has such a deep plan, he even kept me from me. Unexpectedly, this person is a stuffy tiger, sitting on the ground cannon, and raising an unfamiliar white-eyed wolf. The deaf old lady held her cane and chopped on the ground. Make a muffled sound. I feel that He Xiangyang is sorry for himself. TSK, that makes sense. He has become a regular worker and will not be demoted, so his salary is indeed sufficient. I always thought he was a down-to-earth child and wanted to pass on his skills. Hey, luckily I managed to hold on. Yi Zhonghai gritted his teeth and said. The more I think about it, the more I feel about it. Previously, He Xiangyang was obedient, pretending to deceive them. Now that He Xiangyang has transferred to the first level of work, he feels that he can live independently and immediately reveals his true form. Bang! Silly Zhu slammed the table fiercely and said, damn it, this dog. I was so kind to him before, not lacking in food or clothing, not lacking in him at all. I didn't expect this white-eyed wolf to harbor evil intentions. When his wings become hard, he will confront me. It's better to keep a dog than to keep him. Grandma, Grandpa-Yi, I'm too frustrated and cold-hearted. Silly Zhu spoke, moving himself and his eyes turning red. I feel that He Xiangyang has betrayed him. He is now proud and reckless, revealing his true face, which is actually a good thing. Otherwise, with his white-eyed wolf personality, he will continue to lurk and may one day bite us. Yi Zhonghai said. Leave all responsibility on He Xiangyang. Silly Zhu, where did your money go? He Xiangyang's salary plus your salary, in a few years, you can't even take out over 400 yuan. The deaf old lady's words changed and landed on the silly pillar. Yes, I also want to ask about this. I thought you always had 600 or 700 yuan in your hand. What did you use all your money for? Yi Zhonghai also followed suit. Well, The foolish pillar's face shows an unpleasant expression. Speak up. The deaf old lady chopped heavily on the ground with her cane. Grandma, all my money has been used to help Sister Qin. You know, Qin's family is an orphan and widowed mother, it's not easy, I really can't bear it. And Grandpa Yi also said, let everyone help the Jia family more. Can't I take the lead? Silly Zhu confessed the truth. Perhaps he felt that he had done something wrong, and he also found 2 reasons for his behavior. My silly pillar, that's several hundred yuan. What kind of assistance can make you throw so much money into it? The deaf old lady hates iron for not turning into steel. Yi Zhonghai remained silent, just looking at Silly Zhu with a gaze similar to that of Big Silly Fork. I gave Aunt Yi another look. Alright, let's not talk about the past. Starting today, you have to keep an eye on your money, understand? The deaf old lady warned. Okay, don't worry, Grandma. I will definitely save money well in the future. My salary is 32.5 yuan per month, and with the addition of earning money for people's offices, I can save several hundred yuan in a year or 2. Silly Zhu nodded repeatedly. I am very confident in my future. Silly Zhu, you owe our family 200 yuan. Starting today, you will pay back 15 yuan every month. I won't charge you any interest either. You work hard and pay off the money as soon as possible, okay? Auntie took some time to say. Cheng, Auntie, don't worry, I will definitely repay you with this money. Silly Zhu agreed without hesitation. The deaf old lady was leaving, so Silly Zhu stood up and took her back. At the end of the room, there were only Yi Zhonghai and his wife left. I never expected that Silly Zhu could spend so much money on Qinhuairu. If I save this money, it will be enough to get a new wife. Aunt Yi exclaimed somewhat. It's also a good thing to make Silly Zhu have no money to marry a wife. Yi Zhonghai took a breath and said with a stern face. The brain is running at high speed. Auntie didn't answer. She knows what Yi Zhonghai means. If Silly Zhu marries his wife, he will have to discuss anything with her in the future. It will be difficult to get Silly Zhu to provide them with retirement. Only by finding a trustworthy and reliable woman who can be trusted by Mr. and Mrs. Yi Zhonghai, can we become the wife of Silly Zhu. If such a woman cannot be found, then Yi Zhonghai will have to let Silly Zhu fight a bachelor. He Xiangyang thought that by becoming a full-time employee, he could go against me. It's too naive. I have 100 ways to deal with him. Yi Zhonghai suddenly said coldly. Actually, this child is not bad either. When he grows up and wants to get married and have children, he always needs to separate his family and become independent. This person, after all, is not a dog. When they grow up, they can't be restrained. Auntie said with some emotion. If I don't let go, he won't be able to jump out of my 5-finger mountain. You have also seen this situation today. If I don't deal with him, old Liu and Yan must have other thoughts. Yi Zhonghai's tone is affirmative. So what are you going to do? Auntie asked. He doesn't want to get married with someone else. If you tell him what he did today, who would be willing to get married with a white-eyed wolf? A first-level worker is just playing tricks on me, and I let him know that a first-level worker is nothing. After enduring him for a year and a half, I don't believe he won't come and beg me. Yi Zhonghai has a clear mind. With his position in the workshop, tidying up a small-level fitter is simply a matter of holding hands. Jia family. Useless things. If Yi Zhonghai asks you to pay, you can pay. If he asks you to eat shit, do you want to eat it? What can I do if I don't give money? He Xiangyang dares to smash my glass, and I'll go to his house to take a dump. I'm afraid of nothing, I don't have any skills, I get annoyed when I see you. Zhang was inside the house, spraying at Huiru. Mom, didn't I not give the money? Huiru said wrongly. You didn't give the money, silly pillar gave the money. His money is not just my family's money. If we don't give this money to that unscrupulous ghost, it won't flow to my house sooner or later. 6 cents is enough to eat a meal of meat. Zhang cursed in various ways. I always feel like I've lost a lot of money. Seeing He Xiangyang receive 60 cents in compensation is even more painful than losing money.